from there, the song ended up going like 3 times platinum. It was a big look for me. You know what I'm saying? At the time, that was like my first big joint.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible, kind of the story you just told, right? Because what's really interesting about what's going on right now is, the ability to access artists. But during that era, during that time that you were coming up, it was relationships that you were building. It was someone knowing someone else and helping you get to that level. So I think that's really incredible that you were able to get that placement. Definitely huge as well, right? Being able to reach an
Yeah, for
artist
sure,
like that during that time.
for
That's really
sure.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I mean, I see the community here really showing up and showing support for you as well. Can you give us a little bit of insight into how you were able to follow up on that, right? So most producers, they get one big record and they think like, okay, is this it? Is this my only shot at the industry? But you followed up that record with such a big record, with Nicki Minaj, and Drake, right? Moment for Life was your next, big placement. And that song also was able to take off. And in a Twitch stream, you mentioned that you collaborated with someone you had met at, I think it was Best Buy or something. You had collaborated with them and
Yeah.
they came up with that melody. So can you describe a little bit about like what that pressure was like trying to get that next big hit?
Man, I'll tell you what. Honestly, it was a crazy pressure at the time. It was the first time I felt like real music industry pressure. You know what I mean? Because again, like I had this big song come out, and before, prior to that, I had songs with like, artists at the time that were popping. I had songs with Birdman and Plies and like a couple other rappers at that time, but that song was so big. You know what I mean, for me. So within that next little time, I remember, I ended up doing a deal with a publishing company, and they were like, "Oh, give us like another How Low, give us another How Low." And at the time, I was like, "Nah, I don't want to give you another How Low. Like, I don't want to make a carbon copy of something that I've already made because, as a producers, we look at it like it's an art. We don't want to just make the same things all the time."
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was, I just had this crazy pressure. I was just like, "Yo," I was just cooking up beats. And actually, funny enough, shout out Nikhil. Nikhil Seetharam, he's the producer that I met at Best Buy, and he's gone off to
Mm.
do incredible things. He pulled up and we collaborated. He played a little bit on the keys, and we came up with that melody for Moment for Life. And yeah, man, I ended up getting it to Drake, and Drake actually took the beat and he wrote a verse on it and then gave it to Nicki Minaj. So,
Wow.
a lot of people don't know the story, but Drake really is the one who kind of painted the picture for the record, and she took it from there. You know what I mean? So, but yeah,
Yeah.
man, definitely, I was feeling the pressures of people around me just being like, "Hey, like, we just want another. How low can you go?" Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't want to be that type of producer. I want to be the producer that can do every genre and do every
Hmm.
vibe. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. And
yeah, man.
how that's really powerful, right? Because for you to step up and say like, as a producer, say like, no, I want to stand by my art, my craft, like, especially being a newcomer into the industry at that time, that was kind of unheard of, right? For someone to want to be so authentic to themselves, like, a lot of people might take that opportunity and say, okay, I'll make you another How Low, can you go? But how did you transform your sound, or did you think of it in that way where it was like, maybe I keep some elements of myself, but transform it into something unique and different?
Well, I find with music, you're always gonna have a natural element of yourself in your music. Like you're always going to create something that feels like you because it's your interpretation of all the things that you've heard, all the things that you like in your own music. So I never had to make an effort to try and be like anything. I was just doing what I loved. I was just creating what I loved. And that's always something I try to go back to, just even
Mm,
even at this time in my career. Like always remember to create what you love because at the end of the day, the fire is always going to rise to the surface. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? All the dope shit, all the shit that you love, trust me, there's people out there that love it too. So create that, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
don't be afraid to try something new and try new things. So
Mm,
for me, that's just been always me as a producer. Like I've always liked to make everything. Like I'll make a dance track, I'll make a rap track. Matter of fact, when I came in the game, I had the intentions of being an R&B producer and not a hip hop
wow.
producer. Like I never even thought I would be in hip hop. I thought I'd be like the underdogs or like Brian Michael Cox, making R&B joints. But
Yeah.
really, what I mean, my calling was in hip hop as well. So, don't be afraid to explore other things.
Mm. That's interesting. That's really interesting, that you had one plan coming in and then, you were able to adjust. Actually, one of my favorite R&B producers during that time too was Rodney Jerkins, Dark Child. I remember listening to a lot of him growing up as well during that time, and also thinking like, oh, I want to do R&B for Maya. Like that was kind of
For sure. He's a
like the
legend too.
thing.
And
Yeah.
he's done so much dope shit too. Even just he's even done shit that feels, hip hop and pop,
Hmm.
and like he's a multifaceted producer himself too. So it's like, to your point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So shout out to everyone in the YouTube chat right now. Make sure to ask your questions if you guys have questions for T minus. I see a lot of support. A lot of people are fans of the middle child. Beat. Definitely. If you guys have questions for him, feel free to ask them now, and we can get him hopefully to give us some insight on your questions. Um, so so you've been using FL Studio since the beginning, right? You mentioned that at the start of things. Um, and again, you mentioned that, during that time, there was no YouTube, there was no other resources. Can you tell us how you like eventually developed your own sound or your own skill, inside of the box, especially at that time, it wasn't so common for a producer to come up that way within the box, in the box, meaning in FL Studio.
Right.
So can you describe a little bit about like what were the things that you were doing to get better at your craft when there weren't so many resources or things that you could turn to?
Honestly, man, I was really just trying everything. Like I was just, once I learned the basics of the program, I was just trying to figure out like, okay, what does this like little slide knob do? You know what I mean? Like in the piano roll. Like I was trying to go deep into the system, even to the point I'm actually still learning things now with the program. You know what I mean? Like I just learned some stuff recently, how to like make my drums move a little bit better. You know what I mean? If I wanted to, like as far as like
Mm-hmm.
the micro shifting the sounds and stuff, if I want the bounce to be a little bit different. But yeah, man, I'm like I said, I'm just constantly just trying to learn new things. Like that's always
Mm-hmm.
keeping me going, keeping me enjoying the process. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man, it's just good. It's good for the brain. It's good for the creativity.
Yeah. Do you find yourself like going on YouTube for tutorials or like to figure things out? Like, how do you get your
Yeah,
information
definitely,
nowadays?
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not a dinosaur. Like I use YouTube for sure, but
Yeah.
like like I said earlier, like in the beginning, there wasn't as much access to information. So,
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. I mean, man, YouTube is amazing. Like I go on YouTube
Yeah.
for all kinds of tutorials on how to do certain things, or even like how people cooked up beats. Like I'm always curious, like, yo, where did he get that sound from? Like, I'll pull up a YouTube making of a beat, and I'll just watch that and say, oh, okay, I never thought to use that plugin, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm big into like see like for me like I always like to grow my arsenal. So I never stay stagnant in the sounds I'm using.
Yeah.
I'm
Definitely.
constantly getting new drum sounds. I'm constantly sifting through my drum sounds and finding like special ones. I'm constantly finding new plugins. Anytime I go in the studio with a new producer, I'm always like, "Yo, what plugins are you using?" And I'll
Mm.
I'll even share my plugins. I'll be like, "Yo, I'm using this. I'm using that. Like, this is what I use. This is what's good for this. This is what's good for that." And like,
Yeah.
it's all good to share. Some people like to kind of keep the knowledge, but to me, it's like
Hmm.
sharing the knowledge will only further bring more knowledge to you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a big advocate of that.
Definitely, definitely, and you show it in your actions as well, right? Because you were going live on Twitch for some time, and you were showing your cookup process. You were showing people exactly what you're doing. Sharing your screen. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about like what led you to do that? Like, most producers at your level or within the industry don't necessarily go live, or especially during that time. So what led you to that decision, and then also, what was your motivation?
Well, it's funny. Like during that time with COVID, it was just really difficult for me because I live in Canada, and traveling was really
Yeah.
hard. Traveling to the United States was difficult. If I wanted to get in the studio with an artist, it was a tough time. So, um, I don't know. I've always liked the idea of like cooking up live, and like I like to cook up in front of people. Like, now that I'm home, I'm still in Canada and stuff like that. I have a family. I'm not in the studio
Mhm.
the same way. I don't have like an entourage of people with me. I'm like solo cooking up. So it's like feeling that sense of community is always good.
Yeah.
So for me, being on Twitch, it was dope just sharing the process because, I've always appreciated people sharing information with me, you know what I mean? Showing me how it's done because you might do it similarly to how I do it, but it's gonna be a different result most of the
Y-
times. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a big believer in that. So yeah, man, it's all about just sharing the gems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that as well. And, obviously here on Tracklib, we try to share as many gems as possible with our sample breakdowns, showing producers potentially how things were chopped or exposing them to new techniques. So definitely on board with, sharing as much information as possible because you never know where that next sound is going to come from, what producer is going to be inspired by what content or what sound, so
For
it's
sure.
definitely interesting. We have some questions for you from the chat, so let me switch over to the chat really quick before continuing my questions here. So there's a lot of questions around the middle child beat and the sample. So some people are asking, how did you find that sample? What was the process for finding the middle child sample?
That's so funny. So, so this is way back. I think this was in 2018. I was cooking up with Cole, and his manager was there. His manager Eve, shout out Eve, and we were just in the studio. And I remember one of them mentioning, "Yo, you know about this Tracklib website?" And I was like, "No, I actually never heard of Tracklib at the time." So they like we went on Tracklib, and we were just like, honestly, we were just like clicking through shit, like clicking through samples. And funny enough, we landed on this one sample, which was just horns. And I remember Cole heard it and he just like reacted. He was like, "Oh shit, like this is crazy." So we ended up pulling it out. He actually, what's funny? Cole had the bounce, like that whole bounce for that
Yeah.
beat. Like as soon as he heard the sample, he just started beatboxing it. It's like,
Wow.
and like to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure if you listen to the sample in context with the song,
Yeah.
it's not the same. Like the bounce, like
Mm,
how we chopped up the bounce for middle child is different than
the
the
actual.
sample. So
Mhm.
you know what I mean. He had the bounce. I have a really great arsenal of drum sounds and shit. So we
Nice.
just kind of both tag team and we cooked up the beat and that was it, man. Yeah.
Uh,
So
that's crazy. Yeah, that
yeah.
especially hearing that you guys were on Tracklib, scrolling through the samples, and then it's kind of like crate digging, right? But like super fast, right? Because you
It
can
is
actually
crate
stream
digging,
everything.
100%.
Yeah,
It's digital crate digging. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
and you're able to like quickly say like, oh, and what's even crazier is that it was a stem, right? It wasn't
Right,
a
right.
full sample. It wasn't a full
That's
record.
that's the beauty of it. It's like getting the stems. For me, like when I cook up, like I don't like to have a full bed of music as a sample. Sometimes I just like one sound. I just want to use
Wow.
I just want one horn because then I might come up with a different progression on it, or I might,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I might want to get rid of some of the drum sounds that are in the background that are kind of in the way of my drum. So it's
Hmm.
dope having the ability to have the stems and cook up with those.
Dope. Dope. And following up on that, do you find yourself when you think about like producing or sitting down at your workstation in the studio, do you think about producing in terms of like going a sample route first or going the VST route first, or do you just mix and match as you're creating? Like what's your kind
Oh,
of
do you mean like do
pulse?
I come up with melodies first or drums first? Is that really the question? Or
Yeah,
is it like
kind
plug
of,
in or
but it's more
sample
like
first?
do you find yourself being more sample based or more VST based or like mixing or like a hybrid?
I think it all depends, man. Like for
Yeah.
me, it's like it's just what inspires me at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes I might just be in like a oh, let me, usually this is how it works usually. If it's melodies or if it's samples, it has to be an inspiration that came to me. Like it has to be like I
Mm.
was walking to the mall, I heard a sample, I was
Hmm.
like, oh, dope. I Shazammed it. I brought it home. I chopped it
Shazam.
up. Or, like the other day, like I was playing some kids' music for my daughter. She's 18 months. And I heard something when I was making a beat. I heard the bleed from her kids' music into my beat. And I was like, yo, this is kind of fire. So,
Yeah.
I brought that into my music. But like most of the time, it's like, it's all you know what I mean. For me, it's the sampling and the melody stuff is like it's gotta come to me like, or it
Mm.
doesn't always feel right. You can always finesse it. Like it's
Yeah.
always cool to finesse it too. Like I'll pull up some samples. I'll go on Vinyl Frontier on YouTube, for example, or go on Tracklib, and
Hmm.
I'll just pull up samples and I'll listen to stuff. But most of the time, it's like it's got to be something that like I hear
Yeah.
living life, living in the moment, because
Mm.
that's usually, you're not looking for anything in those
Right.
situations. They come to you, and when it comes to you, it feels special. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
your ear perks up, and that's the same reaction you want, your audience to have, or you want the artist to have, or you want people that are listening to your music to have. You
Yeah.
want them to kind of perk up. So if you get that feeling, then you know you're on the right path.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, some solid advice for a lot of people. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure when you're an up and coming producer and you think you have to be creative on the spot, and you think you have to make something that day, and you think all these thoughts about, what a producer should be, when I think you have a really solid point, which is like, you just got to live your everyday life. And if sometimes the inspiration is not there, it's not there. You can't really force the sample to work sometimes. You got to kind of live
Right.
life a little bit, and be inspired, allow yourself to.
That's a big thing too. Like, not a lot of people want to do that, including myself. Like, I was struggling with that for a time, like,
Yeah.
where it's like you become so attached to the cycle of just constantly making music that sometimes it's good to just step away. Don't be afraid to step away. You know what I mean? Like, I know
Yeah.
life is moving, but your mind needs a break. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Your creativity needs a break. And in
Yeah.
that times, sometimes you could spark a new creativity, or a new journey
Yeah.
in your in your creativity. Which for
Hmm.
me, like, just recently I did that. Like, I took like a couple months off. I just wanted to just take time away from the music. I actually didn't even open my DAW for like a
Wow.
couple months, which is like unreal for me,
Yeah.
because I open my DAW like every other day. That's the longest I'll be away from it.
Yeah.
So, for me, I took some time, and I was like, in that time, my mind just opened up to so much more
Wow.
creativity and so many more ideas and things I never thought I could do. So,
Yeah.
definitely take your time.
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, I mean, just living life and having experiences in general, that's what music is, right? When you hear a songwriter or an artist, they're really writing about their life. And in some ways, producers, as we're making beats, that's our version of that, right? Because we don't use words for that. So, you can use a certain chord to make it sound sad if you're feeling down. You can make it sound uplifting if you want to pump yourself up or pump others up as well. So yeah, I think that's really powerful. I think that's a really powerful way to think about music. So it's really
For
dope to hear you
sure.
say that.
For sure.
um
Appreciate it.
Dope. So you have a long career in the music industry, and you've probably seen a lot along the way. What changes, do you feel like you've seen some major changes happen throughout the years, and what changes do you see now in the way that, whether it's production or actually releasing a song, has changed from when you first started?
Man, I could write a novel on this. It's crazy. That's a crazy question. I mean, so much has changed, man. Like, when you look back, like, I mean, the music industry had, to me, it had more of a filter. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Back then, it's like only like the top songs were out, as
yeah.
far as like in your face music. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, there's people that are not fans of the mainstream, and now, to be honest, it's like this is the perfect time for them, because music is being released all the time,
Yeah.
underground music all the time. So it's like, there's that way of looking at it, but also it's like there's just so much music now. It's like, I
Yeah.
wasn't it just, there was like a report of like, what, 600,000 songs every day are released
Yeah.
or something
Something
like
like
that.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
damn, that's crazy. Like,
Crazy.
so it's like, at the end of the day, man, you just got to focus on what you do. For me, sometimes I
Hmm.
get caught up in that world where it's like, yo, there's just so much music. Like, it's hard to even know what's hot half the time, or like what people are really,
Yeah.
really listening to, because it's like, as opposed to just listening to, the top songs on the streaming services,
Right.
it's like there's just still tons of music that people are still listening to. So, for me, uh, it's almost like you still got to play in your world. You still got to live in your own world, and
Hmm.
appreciate the music that you appreciate. Because, like we said earlier, even with like the Indian stuff, their Arabic
Yeah.
chords or whatever, or Arabic melodies, there's a sound for everybody. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
and and at any point, that sound could be the next thing. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, for me, it's been like a rediscovery, really, lately for me, because it's like I'm just listening to shit that I used to like, or random shit that no one else is listening to, and I'm drawing inspiration for all these things. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. That's what's up. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite things that has changed from when I started, I think I started around like 2006 producing. And one of the things that I really enjoy now is the reach, right? Because exactly like you said, there's like 600,000 songs being uploaded. But what's cool to me is like, I'll go on Spotify. Sometimes I won't even listen to American music. I'll listen to like Desi hip hop, stuff from India where
hmm
someone's rapping on a trap beat. And I'm like, wow, hip hop's gone so far from where I thought it could have been. So
yeah,
it's definitely something that, like you're saying, it's like, what's hot now? I don't know what to look for, because you go on Spotify, someone from Russia or India or some other country has like a million monthly listeners, and you're like, well, is that
Right.
hot? Is that the thing people are listening to? You know, it's kind
Yeah,
of
and
cool.
and it's just out of curiosity, really, like just to
Yeah,
know. But it's like it's hard to tell. The gauge is hard to find nowadays. It's like what do you think is hot? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
follow your own gauge at this point,
yeah,
because anything could be hot, man. There's really a sound and a demographic for everybody, which is the beauty of it
yeah.
all.
It's
You know what I'm saying?
awesome.
Like
Yeah,
there's music, like you could be a bedroom producer and make lo-fi hip hop, and like
yeah,
that's your vibe, that's your energy, that's what you're bringing
yeah,
to the world. Or you could do something completely different, man. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So
yeah. It's finding your lane and finding your niche. Yeah.
for sure, 100%.
Yeah, and so yeah, before we get into the challenge, one or two more questions for you. So most up and coming producers, when you think about like, when you're starting out, right, and it's like looking up to people like you or other producers in the industry, you start thinking like, oh man, I wish I could produce. In my era, in my time, it was like I wish I could produce for Jay-Z. I wish I could produce for 50 Cent, Eminem. Now,
Yeah,
and you've produced for literally the biggest artists of our generation, whether it's Drake, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Justin Bieber. You've done that. And so can you describe, like to the up and coming producer, what it's like to, for you, it might feel different, right? Because you're living through it. But like, can you describe to these up and coming producers what it's like to find an artist like that early on in your career, or what goes on through your mind, as you're working with this caliber of artists?
well, it's funny, like, when I first started off, I known Drake for years too. So, I
Mm,
did a song for him called Replacement Girl when I was like 18.
mm,
And, that was one of the well, that was kind of a song in the city at the time that people were playing and stuff like that.
yeah,
But for me, man, it's just, you know, it's hard to explain, man. You just gotta go out and just like find your tribe. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just
mm,
naturally how it happens. When you find your tribe, like you'll naturally gravitate towards the artists that fit you. You know what I'm
mm-hmm,
saying? And fit the sound you're doing. And don't be afraid to try something new and work with a new artist. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to aim for the top guys. And
yeah,
honestly, it's not a bad idea to do that creatively. Like at least you're setting a gauge for yourself as far as like, what you're trying to attract to your life. You know what I'm saying? You're making a certain sound that attracts
yeah,
this type of artist. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that don't be upset if you don't ever reach that person. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? Or if it takes you years to get there, because really, your life is a journey at the end of the day. It's not about just like waking up tomorrow and having the biggest song. Like
yeah,
it's going to take time. It's going to take you getting maybe some album cuts or,
mm-hmm,
interning for this person or
mm-hmm,
being an engineer in sessions. Like, so everybody's path is different, but
yeah,
definitely I would say be open to working with the people around you,
mm,
because those people could be the ones that pop off. And honestly, and if you look through history, the producers that have made careers with new artists are usually the ones that everybody's like, yo, wow, like this
yeah,
guy's a legend, because it's like they made something out of nothing. It's easy to give a hit to an artist that's already established.
right,
It's so easy. You know
mm-hmm,
what I mean? Because they're already a hit
they're there,
artist.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like to give a hit to somebody who's not is like it's the real test.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that's pretty strong. That's a pretty strong message for our community as well. It's like if you look at the history of hip hop, you'll notice like for you guys up in Canada, that's like a whole movement that came from there. When you think of
Right.
NWA's movement, Dr. Dre's movement, when you think of Pharrell and Timbaland in Virginia, like it's these pockets, the South, obviously, Atlanta,
Right.
there's these pockets of areas, and what's the common thread is that everyone's in the same location or understands or might be friends, or it's
Right.
all
Right.
about that network effect from where you come from. So I think that's really powerful too, about just music in general is just amazing in that way. Cool. So we're about to get into the beat section, so we can listen to some beats. Do you have any last advice for the Tracklib community? Some sample heads in here right now.
I
Um,
hope I hear some fire beats. That's all I hope. And
yeah.
I'm curious, Danny, are we like how are we judging this? Are we judging? And then I'm just curious, are we judging this off of creativity, or is it just who has the hardest beat?
This is
Is this what it is?
that's up to you, man. I stay out of the
I'm gonna
way
do
when you pick the
both.
top.
I'm looking for something that's like a creative flip, and with a dope beat over top.
So yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely. I'm
man.
I'm excited to see your reaction to a lot of these beats. This community. What I can tell you from the past couple of streams we've been doing, is that this community takes their arrangements really, really seriously. I've been like blown away by some of the, the beat will start out one way and it'll drop another. They'll put like this crazy, switch up in their beat, so shout out to everyone in this community right now, everyone on Tracklib right now. You guys know who you are on the Discord. I'm blown away every time, to be honest. And I
Fire.
can't wait to, I wait till the stream to listen to them too. So I can't wait to listen to them. So,
All right, dope.
yeah.
Dope.
So
Looking
let's
forward
get
to
right
it.
into these. Let me just pull this up. And we're going to get into the first one here. So we're going to get into the first track. It's by A Swung. And
All right,
let's press play.
Wake up to me, take one. 1, 2, 3,
All right.
Wow, that was very. I didn't expect it going there at all. Musically, at least, I was waiting for the horns to come in or something. That's kind of cool how he flipped it in such a way. Yeah, no, it's different. It's definitely different. The bounce is different than
It's
what
got
people
like a
are doing.
G-funk thing going on,
Yeah, it's kind of exactly. At first, it felt like some it's kind of weird for me to say this, but it's like it felt like some pop shit at first. Like when the beat dropped, like it was just simple, it was like a simple canvas, and I was rocking with it. The music kind of like threw me off a little bit at first, but then when we got into it, I was like, okay, I get it. I get the vibe. Like I was feeling it. You know what I mean? So yes, shout out A Swung.
A Swung. All right. Now we got ACFX or ACLX. Sorry, I'm going blind. I need to wear my glasses. Cool. ACLX. Too much cooking up. You're staring at the screen all day.
Feel that.
Here we go.
Wake up to me, take one. Wake up to me, take one.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I felt like I got really sleepy really quick listening to that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, to be honest, a lot of great elements are in there. It just feels like it needs tempo. You know what I mean? It needs to be faster. I could hear it faster.
Yeah.
And then also I could hear just like cleaner, just like louder drums. Like, kind of felt like everything was kind of muddy, all in itself. Like the sample felt a bit muddy, which is cool. That's okay. But then when the drums felt muddy, like they were kind of like living in the same world, it kind of
Yeah.
did. It just didn't really stick out. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I
yeah,
heard
man.
some really cool drum fills in there and some really cool shots in there. But yeah, I see what you're saying about the muddiness of the actual mix.
Yeah, I just felt a little sleepy. Like I felt like if when he made this, whoever made this is like they were just kind of just like bopping like, but it's like,
Mm.
yo, give it some energy, man. Like bob with it and then create that feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
bring that feeling to the production.
Yeah, that's good feedback, man. I think that's, sometimes when you're creating as well, you got your own element, you got your own headphones or your speakers, your own kind of vibe, and it might sound different to you than others at that time, so
Right.
definitely. All right, we got another one. We got Big
Big
Sella.
Sella.
Let's go.
Where's the sample? It's in there?
We'll find out. The chat's cracking up about where's the sample.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the sample in that. But yo,
Yeah.
it's a dope beat though. I actually like the beat. I'm wondering what part of the sample is used. I wish that was made more obvious. You know what I mean? Being like the challenge with the sample, like make it obvious to say
Mm.
like, yo, this is what I'm using. Like, listen, like here's a moment of the section, and then drop it in. That way, it's like, yo, it blends really well.
Yeah. So one thing to call out is that we allowed everyone in the Chop Up Challenge to use the stems for the track, and there's like a ton of stems for
Yeah, for
this
sure.
song. So
Nah, I get it. I get it. It's
yeah,
just hard to tell because it's like,
yeah,
nah, but it's dope though. The beat slap, which is dope.
sick. Uh, Jay Lenga is up next. So let's
Trey
take a listen to
Lenga.
this. Shout out to everyone in the community. They were cracking up over that. Where's the sample?
Whoa. Damn, this is a chop. Wow, that's so creative, man. Damn. Chop that thing up. Jeez.
That was pretty cool. That was
That
definitely
was
pretty
really
cool.
that was really dope. That's definitely my favorite so far. I'll put that one at the top for sure.
I like how they made the sample. Jay Lenga made the sample feel like almost like a synth in some parts. It was kind of cool the way he was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what you mean? That shit was crazy. That was so creative, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay, here we go.
Love
Mr.
that. Love that.
Produced by Nana B. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2.
Wow.
It was really creative too. That was super dope. I like that one too.
I was not expecting that Afrobeat bounce. It was
I
just,
know, it's dope, man. So
Yeah.
it's very fresh. You wouldn't expect that.
cool. Here we go. Phyllis Beats is next. This is number 6 out of the 10.
Wake up to me, take 1.
Whoa.
It's that like
Yeah, for sure. Like primo vibe.
Need my backpack.
Ooh, beat switch. No, those strings are really cool. They're really dope.
Yeah, little tempo change at the end there was cool.
That was dope, and that beat switch was cool too. Like the whole different chords.
Yeah, and definitely had
Yeah.
like kind of like that New York primo vibe for sure. Like
For
the
sure, for sure.
old school.
It
vibe.
definitely needs more. It needed some bass though. It needs some more bass. I know it had
Mm.
bass in like the verse sections, but
That's a good
in
call.
the hook section, but it needs like more bass to drive that energy.
That's what's up. Some good feedback
What
for
was-
the
what was-
community. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. What was the last producer's name?
This was Phyllis. Phyllis Beats.
Phyllis. All right, dope. Shout out Phyllis. That was dope.
Cool. We got Steadfast up next. This is number 7 out of the 10. Steadfast.
All right. Yo, I couldn't find the beat for the longest time until now. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was like, yo, where's the beat? Drop the fire though.
definitely an interesting flip.
Yeah, definitely, it's different. I just couldn't. It was hard for me to find the bounce, find the pocket
Yeah, it's got that like
at
triple it
first.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you don't know, it's like hard to pick up on.
Yeah. All right, we got Kevin Crates. Kevin Crates, number 8.
Let me take one.
Thank you for.
Someone
Listen,
said
I like the
Christmas
drums.
already.
Yeah. I like the drums though. The drums are dope. Music got a little sleepy for me though. Like it felt a little bit like
Yeah, my only feedback on that one was like, yeah, if they had more arrangement on the track, yeah, probably would have picked it up a little bit.
strings would have sounded crazy if they could have incorporated the strings from the sample somehow.
Mm,
It would have brightened it up a bit. It would
yeah,
have been dope. Yeah.
fire.
Who's this
Tracklib
right here?
challenge. It doesn't say a name on this one. I'll try and get the name while we play it. But this is
Alright.
number 9 out of 10. So this is the 9th one.
Track makes the beat.
I actually like the bounce of those drums. I just think
Yeah.
again it gets a little sleepy.
Yeah. This was Track Makes the Beat. That was the name of-
Track makes the beat.
yeah, that was the name of the producer. Yeah, that was a pretty good bounce. Yeah, I agree with that. I wish I had a little bit more bass in the track.
Yeah,
as well.
definitely bass. That needs some bass for sure.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what the community is saying. Yeah. This one's gonna be from Mike G. Just got the
This
Slack.
is Mike
message.
G right here. It's the last
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, the last one, 10 out of 10.
Wake up to me, take one. 1, 2, 3.
That was a dope chop.
That was super creative chops right there. That was fire.
Yeah, that was a dope chop. I like that. The only thing I will say is it felt a little bit like there was too much going on at parts, like too many chops, like too many sounds. Like I couldn't focus on like what everything was doing because there was so much other, like there's a fill here and there. There's like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely needs to let the beat breathe a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Space is so important, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So shout out to all 10 submissions. Obviously there were more than 10 submissions, so for everyone who's wondering how we picked the top 10, I see you guys in the chat. So you know, we have our Discord channel. If you haven't joined it, link is in the description. There we announced the chop up challenge, we announced the sample, and you guys have a certain amount of time to flip it. And then someone on the Tracklib team goes through all the submissions by the deadline, picks the top 10 that then get placed into this live stream. So I see a couple of people asking, how did you guys pick these? Yeah, so that's all 10 of them. So now it's up to you to pick your top 3. So what we'll do is we'll go 3, 2, 1. So you'll announce your third one, I'll play it again. Second one, I'll play it again, and then your top one, I'll play it again.
All right, so on third place for me, and this is based off. I liked how creative it was. I like how he flipped it. It was Nana B. I give it to Nana B for third.
Nana B. Let me go.
Nana B. I think it was Mr. something. Nana Mr. B. Dolby. That's it.
Yeah. Number 3.
I like the flip, how creative it was.
You could even release this as a track, but this could be just like a dance track.
I'm also, some of it too is like I'm basing off like, does this have a life somewhere? Like, could this actually be somewhere? Like, could I actually hear a song on this? Like, definitely that's definitely one of them.
Dope. Yeah, definitely.
What were you gonna say? Sorry, I cut you off, Danny.
No. I was just gonna say definitely. Yeah, like you can hear this just playing at a DJ playing it in a lounge or something like that. Or
it's a vibe. It's a vibe. Yeah. It's dope. The second one, I give it to Phyllis.
Phyllis, I think that was towards the end. There it is. That was the next one. Here we go. Phyllis, number 2. Shout out to Phyllis.
Wake up to me, take one. Be flat.
How many switch ups there were? Like I just like the chop. You know what I mean? Like I thought it was really creative. He made Phyllis made the best of like the chops, the things he had.
Yeah, this was definitely like, taking different parts of the track, putting them in different places. Yeah, definitely
Yeah, it
interesting.
was very, very creative. Love that. And then my favorite one, the number one, definitely has to go to Jay Lenga. That shit was beautiful. That shit, like the chops were really good. Like the beat, I could hear like as a song. Like I hear like an R&B record on something like this. You know what I mean? Like
Wow. Yeah.
it's super fire. Like to me, this one was probably one of the cleanest ones. It's just like I don't know. It just felt right. It just felt really good.
Dope, man. Yo, that has to feel really. Yo, shout out to Jay Lango. That has to feel really good. You just had T Minus give you a huge compliment. So let's take a listen to this. Hey.
That shit's crazy. Wow. This gives me like when I go back and listen to like old Just Blaze chops, like when you would chop up a sample or like
like the chip.
yeah, but just like the chops are like when you grab, it's like when I listen to Breathe by Fabulous, like all those chops in different places.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it just feels like all these random moments, but they feel so good together. Like it was done well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Job well done. The drums too, like they're not typical. They're not like the typical drums. You know what I mean? Like I like the flip. I like everything about it. Shout out Jay Lenga, man. That's just fire.
Yeah, it definitely has a feel, right? It feels like everything fits. It's got its own like lane, its own thing, So
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
All right, shout out to everyone who participated. Shout out to the winners. We got some stuff for the top winner. Join our Discord if you haven't already. Shout out to T Minus. Shout out to you for coming through and blessing the live. Really appreciate everyone.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Yeah.
I haven't done one of these in a long time.
No, man, it's been awesome having a conversation with you and also seeing your feedback. Obviously, it's so valuable for our community to have someone like you come through and be honest with them about their music and give them advice on your career and what you've seen happen, because you never know, one of these Tracklib community members could be the next big one to get
definitely
a hit, so
100%.
Yeah, hopefully
these guys are very talented, man, for real. So
yeah, hopefully we can get you back around sometime for another one.
For sure, man. I love Tracklib, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that's a wrap for our stream, everyone. If you guys want to join the next one, make sure to join our Discord. The link is in the description. Follow Tracklib everywhere. Follow T Minus everywhere on socials as well. What can the community expect from you next? What are you working on?
I can't speak on it. I knew it was coming, but no, I'm working, man. There's a lot of stuff that I'm working on in the pipeline, and it's been honestly, I'm not gonna lie, like music creatively, work has just been like a beautiful thing over the last like year or so, because I've been building up a lot of things. I have a lot of projects coming. I don't want to speak on them.
Nice.
But and also too, like, for me, I'm just looking to change the sound right now. Like for me, it's all about like what's next in music, and
yeah,
that's been my that's my goal. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's been the focus. So when I drop soon, there's gonna be some different stuff coming, and yeah, man, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody that submitted all the tracks and stuff like that, and always remember, if I could just give any advice before I go, is just be in love with the process. Don't worry about the results. Let God take care of the results, because when you're always looking to the future, like, oh, this could be a hit, oh, this, it's like, no, just enjoy making the music, because that's how I got where I got to, is just enjoying the process. I just love getting downstairs in my basement, making beats, and the rest handled itself. So just always keep that in mind.
Wow. Awesome way to leave off the stream. Awesome way
Appreciate
to leave
it,
off the
man.
stream. Yeah. So shout out to everyone. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you, T Minus, for blessing us with all these gems and all this really great advice, man. So yeah, shout out to everyone, and we'll catch you guys next month for the next stream. Peace out.
All right, my boy. Take care, Danny.